Today on the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement.
We are going to discuss why it is so important to plan for the worst and hope for the best, especially when it comes to your retirement.
And on Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss the important financial lessons we've all learned from 2020.
And on our Chalk Talk segment today, we're going to show you how to create your own 2021 financial checklist.
So sit back, relax, and learn. The Chad Slagle Show starts now.
I'm Chad Slagle. I believe financial planning is about educating people and empowering them to make better decisions with their hard-earned dollars.
Coaching gives me satisfaction from watching a player succeed and get better.
You need an experienced team around you. The best coaches have great assistant coaches. I have brought a lot of the techniques and structure I learned from playing and coaching football and apply them to the world of investing. My goal now is to coach as many individuals and families as I can on how to get successfully to and through retirement.
Welcome into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. I'm Wendy Erickson, here with the coach, Chad Slagle. Today on the Clipboard segment, we're going to discuss why it's so important to plan for the worst and hope for the best, especially for your retirement.
You know, that's right, Wendy. Think about this. Every time you get in your car, it's an automatic thing. You do what? You put on your seatbelt. We buy special seats for our children when they're young and teach them to always wear their seatbelts properly as they grow. Why do we do this? It's not because you plan to get an accident or a wreck and that you think it will happen every time you get behind the wheel, but you are being proactive and planning for the worst. Simply wearing a seatbelt or putting your kids in a car seat or booster seat gives you the peace of mind knowing your family is protected and prepared just in case the worst happens. Nowadays, you never purchase a car without airbags or without a seatbelt, right? Then why would you go into a retirement without a plan? Why wouldn't you be proactive when doing so could really provide peace of mind for you and your family in retirement? And that's really what we want to talk about today, Wendy, is we plan for everything else. So why wouldn't you, one of the most important phases of your life, why wouldn't you prepare for that properly before the time does come?
Yeah, I like to think of myself as a glass half full person as opposed to half empty, you know, the positive outlook on life. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. But you know, I don't like to think about the worst things that could happen all of the time and let that dominate my life. But when it comes to your money and your retirement, Chad, like you're saying, you've got to be prepared. Who would have thought we would be in a global pandemic? It was on nobody's radar. I mean, at least not on my radar, and I don't think a lot of you at home would say the same thing. So here we are, though. And those of us who kind of, you know, planned a little bit for something like this, had rainy day savings or whatever you want to call it, will be okay, but there's an awful lot of suffering out there because people don't plan.
No question, and we see it all the time, and over the past 25 years, I've seen a lot of ups and downs in the market, and we keep telling people over and over again, you have to have a plan, you have to have a plan. I mean, we know nobody wants to think about, well, what happens if I lose 30 to 40%? That's the worst, right?
Right.
But you have to plan for that, especially as you get closer to retirement. Hopefully, 2020 has taught a lot of you some lessons. Some of those lessons, or mistakes, if you will, we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about how you, going into 2021, can have that financial checklist, if you will, so you are prepared. So if we do have that 20, 30, or 40% correction, it will not affect you, your family, or your retirement.
Kind of putting a seatbelt on your retirement plan.
Definitely have to put a seatbelt on. I think
like
about
that,
when I was a kid, we didn't wear seatbelts.
Right.
You get in the back of the station wagon and you'd be looking out the back window, and if something were to happen, that would be a very tragic thing.
Take a risk, yeah.
Right? But now it's an automatic. You put your seatbelt on, and you know, 20, 30 years ago, you didn't have to have a plan for retirement because most of you had a pension. Today, though, you have to have a seatbelt. You have to have a plan for retirement.
And that is what we're going to talk to you all about today. Right? Well, when we return on the Coach's Corner, we are going to discuss the important financial lessons we've learned from 2020. We'll be right back.
The number one concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system.
This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri, at our Creve Coeur and Sunset Hills offices, or in Illinois at our Edwardsville, Springfield, and Jacksonville locations. So call now to get set up on the right path on your journey through retirement.
Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We are back with the coach, Chad Slagle, and his colleague, Chad Tobin. And today on the Coach's Corner, we're going to discuss the important financial lessons we've all learned from 2020.
That's right, Wendy. According to a survey by Charles Schwab of 1,000 currently employed 401k plan participants between the ages of 25 and 70, the top source of financial stress is saving enough for a comfortable retirement. And this is a worry that is trending upward as a result of the pandemic. People are scared and they don't know what to do, especially with this also being an election year. The market has been very volatile in March. Many of you saw your portfolios drop as much as 40%. And if you had the proper game plan set up to allow that money to ride back up with the market, then you are probably in a comfortable place. But many of you sold out when the market dropped and lost out on all of the gains that came back in the following month. Regardless of which person you are, I think it's very safe to say that we've learned some lessons from this crazy year of 2020. So now we want to talk about some of those lessons in more depth. And I'm a big believer that we learn from our mistakes or bad things that happen to us, not from our successes.
Yeah, and I think, Chad, although this has been a very scary year for everyone, I think a lot of people can still, us as a business and a lot of our clients and a lot of you out there can still take some positives away from even 2020, as crazy a year as it's been.
All right, well, let's discuss the first lesson we learned.
Well, the first lesson is prepare for the unexpected. Like we mentioned earlier, no one could have predicted our world facing a global pandemic that shut down our entire country and caused as much havoc as what came about at the beginning of 2020 and really throughout the year. However, as you get closer to retirement, or when you do retire, you have to plan for the worst. The problem is people don't expect things to happen until what? Until they actually do. So you have to be proactive and not reactive, especially as I mentioned earlier, Wendy, as you get closer to retirement.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people sitting out there, you've panicked. And in February, and the pandemic came earlier this year, all of a sudden panic crept in, and panic just hasn't gone away. So you've been in a fear mode this entire time, as opposed to what Chad was mentioning. If maybe we would have kind of planned for the worst, we would have been a little bit more comfortable in this time.
I know, I'm tired of being worried about what's going to happen next. I'd like for things to return to normal. I think a lot of us would say the same thing, but good discussion here. What's the next lesson that we learned?
The worried and the unknown, right?
Yeah.
So one of the big unknowns is stock market volatility. As you all know and experienced, the market dropped 37% in March of this year, prompted by the pandemic. And many people reacted, as Chad mentioned, and dropped out of the market immediately and sat on the sidelines while the market came back up in the following months to where we are now. Others were drawing income from those investments in retirement, which affected them significantly because of the initial drop. Just like we've talked about on the show before, Chad, if you're sitting there with $1 million portfolio and you're drawing $50,000 a year from that 5%, then all of a sudden it drops 40%. Now you no longer have $1 million, you only have $600,000, but you still need that $50,000 coming in each and every year to live off of.
Yeah, and I think, as you mentioned, the markets are going to continue to they go up and they go down, and they're going to continue to be volatile. So, what we constantly talk to our clients and stress about is, as you're getting into this retirement phase of life, you've got to have a plan in place so that when we go through these kind of times and the market drops, you're in a comfortable place that you can afford to kind of ride these markets back up.
All right, what about the last lesson that we learned?
The last lesson is the retirement magic number increasing? We hear about it all the time, that magic number, that goal you have to have in order to retire. And there are all kinds of sites you can go to calculate it for you. And for the longest time, that number was $1 million for retirement. Well, a survey conducted this year by Logica Research for Schwab Retirement Plan Services revealed that Americans think they'll need to save $1.9 million on average to retire. So you may be asking, how much do I need? Well, there's no clear-cut answer. As we talk about all this time, there's a lot of variables that you have to take a look at. You have to think about, what is your risk tolerance? What are your income needs? What are your lifestyle goals? What are your family dynamics? What are your liabilities and your assets? And of course, Chad, part of your assets are your investments. So it's really an unknown. It really depends on you and what you want to have in retirement, what kind of lifestyle you want to have, and what kind of legacy you want to leave to your children and grandchildren.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, you have to find a firm, you have to find an advisor, and that firm that's willing to sit down with you to understand, everything that Chad just mentioned, from your risk tolerance to your income needs and your lifestyle goals, and really help you figure this out together to build that plan that you're comfortable with.
All right, good information. And there's more information in Chad's new book, Winning in Retirement, When Every Day is Saturday, is now available. This book is a simplified step-by-step guide on how to be successful in retirement. It is the perfect book for retirees and those looking to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. And it is #1 on Amazon's bestsellers list. To download your free sneak peek, visit slaglefinancial.com/book. And coming up on Chalk Talk, we're going to show you how to create your 2021 financial checklist. Stay with us.
Let's go.
He's such an involved dad. He's always telling the kids stories. I remember when so-and-so said I couldn't do this, or I didn't make this team.
Everybody in here.
That's what drives him. In our family, we always tell our kids to stick up for each other, stand behind one another. He feels it's his role to provide, keep us safe, and to make sure that the kids are taken care of. A lot of Chad's clients have the same traditional values, and he bonds with them. Each family has a different set of circumstances, and each family is unique and different. The common thread between all of Chad's clients is that they want the best for their family, just as he would our own family.
Welcome back once again to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. So we just discussed the important financial lessons we've learned from 2020. Now we're going to show you how to create your 2021 financial checklist.
You have to prepare, as we just talked about, for the unexpected. We still have no clue how next year will play out with the coronavirus and how our country will operate because of it. And in order to prepare for the unexpected, you have to build a game plan. One that you know you can revisit each and every day, and one that will give you peace of mind in retirement. After all, these are supposed to be your golden years, right? The market will be volatile throughout retirement, and there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. And there'll be a lot of speculation when it comes to figuring out your retirement magic number. But if you have that plan set up, you will be able to adjust for those things. So now we want to go over some steps to help you build your retirement checklist for this upcoming year, 2021.
Well, and I think now, with what we have ahead of us the rest of this year, now there's not a better time to start planning and preparing for next year than right now.
I think it's going to be a big New Year's celebration this year, but right, we're going to go into it really prepared, and that means a good old checklist, like you said. What would be #1?
Number 1, build your holistic retirement plan. In order to be successful in retirement, you have to have a structured game plan, one that fits your exact needs, not a cookie cutter plan that is set up for people in their 50s, 60s, or 70s, one that is set up specifically for you. And by holistic, we mean all facets of retirement: income planning, investment planning, legacy planning, tax planning, health care, and of course, Chad, long-term care planning.
Yeah, and I think most importantly, finding that firm and advisor that's going to kind of help you walk you through this checklist, because most people don't realize or think about that there's a lot of these things that go into retirement planning. So, working with the firm that can kind of make it very simple for you to walk through all and check off all the boxes.
You know, there's a lot to it. It's not just the market's up, the market's down, I've made money, I've lost money. As you mentioned, Chad, there's a lot more that goes into it, especially when we talk about retirement planning and making sure this money's going to last the next 25, 35 years of your life.
I love the idea of a holistic plan. Okay, what's the second step?
Second would be to create your proper, secure, and growth buckets. Most people going into retirement have all or most of their money sitting in that growth bucket, sitting in the stock market. And this is fine during your working years because you aren't drawing from this money and you're trying to get it to grow. But when you retire, now you have to build that proper balance, a secure bucket and a growth bucket. And of course, the secure bucket should be your foundation. That factors in your income needs. And this is the money you know you can't afford to lose. It doesn't matter if the market drops 10, 20, or 30%. Some of that money, Chad, has to be there no matter what.
Yeah, and I think, one thing we see so often is people come in, and they're 3 to 5 years from retirement, and they're just 95% or plus of their money is out there hanging in this stock market where they really don't have much of a plan other than taking on risk. And so this is what we see, and we have to kind of help them understand and set up that secure bucket so that no matter what the markets do, we have that secure bucket in place. And once that's set up, now we can start taking on risk and we can start filling that growth bucket up as well.
And I think the other thing you have to do, Wendy and Chad, is you have to take a look at your money and you have to have that risk analysis done. In other words, if this market has a 20 to 30% correction here in the next year, the way your money's set up right now, how much would you lose? Think about how many of you out there, how many people would have liked to know what that number was at the end of 2019 going into 2020. Hey, if the market drops 40%, this is how much I'm going to lose. It's about being prepared, as we talked about earlier, and having that seatbelt.
All right. Looking forward to 2021, what would be the last thing we need to put on our checklist?
Know your number. Last but not least, know your number. When do we mean by this? Rather than going online and searching up how much you need to retire, like the 1.9 million number we mentioned in the last segment, you have to work with a retirement specialist who can help you figure out what your exact needs are for retirement. Then they can help you figure out that number. And I think that's the biggest thing, Chad. For some people, it may be 3 million. For some people, it may be 500,000. It really depends on you, your needs, and what you want to accomplish in retirement.
Yeah, and I think the bottom line is finding that specialist that's going to fit with you, that's going to take you through there, help you find your number, but also put you in a place that going into 2021, you're going to be comfortable moving into a market that's volatile or not so volatile.
All right, well, we want to remind you that Chad's new book, Winning in Retirement, When Every Day is Saturday, is #1 on the Amazon bestsellers list and is available now. To download your free sneak peek, visit slagelfinancial.com/book. When we come back on our strategy play, the Chads are going to show you how to protect your retirement, I can say it, by creating a proactive, personalized retirement plan. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
The #1 concern of retirees today is outliving their hard-earned dollars. It is more important now than ever to educate and empower yourself to make better decisions with your money that it has taken you 30 to 40 years to accumulate. How do you do this? By using our Financial GPS, our guided planning system. This is a 4-step process to help get you successfully to and through retirement. The first step in this process is to create clarity. Here we will help identify your goals as well as your concerns and identify what you want to accomplish in retirement. The second step, we will analyze the risk you're taking with your current portfolio, and this step will also identify exactly what you are paying in fees. In the third step, we will evaluate and assess your current plan and help identify the gap between the missing pieces. And in the fourth and final step, this is where we will work together to implement a plan of action to accomplish your retirement goals. And this process can take place at any one of our convenient locations in Missouri, at our Creve Coeur and Sunset Hills offices, or in Illinois at our Edwardsville, Springfield, and Jacksonville locations. So call now to get set up on the right path on your journey through retirement. Welcome back to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. On this week's strategy play, we're going to show you how to protect your retirement by creating a proactive, personalized retirement plan. I think that's what's so important today, Chad. As we talked about earlier, if 2020, if you didn't learn anything at all from all of the bad things that happened in 2020, hopefully you've learned as you get closer to retirement or when you do retire, you have to have a plan.
Having a plan in place, this is a perfect year to kind of make a lot of retirees realize that this is the most important thing to do. And I think we've seen a lot of people, you know, in the last, I would say, 9 months really coming into the office and realizing that they didn't have a plan and how important it is to start building that plan. And I think, you know, you've worked 30 plus years to get to this thing called retirement, and all of a sudden you've got a lot of maybe moving parts out there that you feel is very overwhelming, and you're trying to figure out how to kind of put those moving parts together, kind of like you talked about earlier, Chad, with that car analogy and, you know, putting that seatbelt on, so to speak.
Absolutely, Chad. We talk about the car. You know, when you get in the car, you go through a whole checklist of things. What do? You get in, you make sure your phone's hooked up, right? So you're not all over your phone. You make sure your seatbelt's on. If it's raining, you make sure the lights are on. If it's dark, the lights are on. You make sure your kids are in the back and they have their seatbelts on. So there's this whole checklist you go through to protect you and your family. Not that you're expecting to get into an accident, but protect you in case something happens. And the same thing when it comes to retirement today, Chad. There's so many moving parts. There's so many investment vehicles that you could be putting your money into. But the key is to make sure that these investment vehicles that are out there, these moving parts, you want to make sure these moving parts are set up properly and working cohesively together to accomplish your goals.
Yeah, and as you can see, I mean, the variable annuities, 401ks, you have some life insurance, maybe some long-term care, IRAs spread out all over, some mutual fund accounts, and index funds, stocks, bonds, whatever it may be, real estate. And then you're trying to figure out how to really kind of what we talked about, get in the car and kind of get your checklist in place, get all these things working together. And so what do? We want to keep it simple. We want to put it together a checklist, and we start from the order of most importance for you and your family.
And of course, most important is once you retire, making sure that this money is going to last the next 25, 35 years, because when you retire, it's like having 25 to 35 years of unemployment. So number one, principal protection. Number two, family pension. In other words, making sure you have an income stream that's going to last throughout the rest of your life, no matter how long you or your spouse live. The other one, Chad, would be growth. You still have to make sure your money grows and be protected. And then, of course, liquidity. If you need that money to live off of, you have to be able to get to it. Then, of course, then you can start thinking about things like life insurance, legacy planning, long-term care, and, of course, that Medicare and health insurance.
Well, and as we talked about earlier, I mean, I think the most important thing is a lot of people expect that financial advisor to be able to do everything. And I think a retirement specialist is going to be able to walk you through and check off these boxes, not only on the investment side, but on the insurance side, the legacy side, the long-term care side. So a lot of these things that go into retirement, that specialist, that advisor should be able to take care of for you. And if you do it properly, then you create those 3 buckets.
And then the 3 buckets, of course, you have your secure bucket, your growth bucket, and that dream bucket, that extra bucket. So you want to make sure that you have enough money sitting in that secure bucket, Chad, when there is a 30, 40% correction in the market, that money's protected. Then once that's set up, then you can have money sitting in the growth bucket that you can afford to watch it go up and down. When it's up, you harvest some of those gains, but when it's down, it's not a big loss. And then, of course, the last one that we talked about, Chad, is that dream bucket, that extra bucket set up for you and your spouse to support you with whatever lifestyle you want to have in retirement, whatever dreams that you have set up for retirement. But then also make sure if you decide to walk out on life, it's set up for you and your family in the most tax advantageous manner.
So as you go through the checklist, and you're checking these boxes off, this becomes your own personalized retirement plan, and you feel comfortable, you feel prepared moving into next year.
This is your Post-it note that you should have everywhere that you follow, especially as you get closer to retirement. And that's this week's Strategy Play.
Thank you, gentlemen. To get more detailed information on these strategies and how they can work for you, contact Slagle Financial now to schedule your 5-point inspection, which you can do as an in-person meeting or via Zoom video chat. Call 888-294-9248 or email at info@slaglefinancial.com. We'll be right back with some of the key takeaways from today's show.
Chad Slagle and join.
I'll be with you guys in just a few minutes.
When it comes to your health, your life, your family, your home and your hard-earned dollars. Of course, you want to make sure you're working with that sharp, energetic, knowledgeable individual that is always looking out for your best interest.
Such short notice. Appreciate it. Thanks.
It's time to get your financial house in order. This is the new age of retirement planning.
In the Wall Street world, that's what they talk about. You got to have
Now back into the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through
We
retirement.
are Slagle Financial. Call now, 888-294-9248.
Let's go.
He's such an involved dad. He's always telling the kids stories. I remember when so-and-so said I couldn't do this or I didn't make this team. That's what drives him. In our family, we always tell our kids to stick up for each other, stand behind one another. He feels it's his role to provide, keep us safe, and to make sure that the kids are taken care of. A lot of Chad's clients have the same traditional values, and he bonds with them. Each family has a different set of circumstances, and each family is unique and different. The common thread between all of Chad's clients is that they want the best for their family, just as he would our own family.
Welcome back once again to the Chad Slagle Show, coaching you to and through retirement. We've covered a lot of ground today. What would you say, Chad, are some of the key takeaways from the show?
Number one, you wouldn't purchase a car without airbags or seat belts. You wouldn't put your kids in the back seat without tying them in, if you will. So when it comes to retirement, you want to keep that plan in mind as well. Make sure you're prepared for the worst and hope for the best. Number two, enter 2021 with a proactive plan in case it is another unprecedented year. And number three, figure out your magic number to have financial peace of mind in retirement. Understand it's different for everyone. It's not cookie cutter.
I'm feeling good about 2021, so.
It can't be any worse,
That's
right?
right. All right. And another good thing, Chad's new book, Winning in Retirement When Every Day is Saturday, is #1 on the Amazon bestsellers list and is available now. To download your free sneak peek, visit slaglefinancial.com/book. And Slagle Financial and their team of advisors have educational events coming up in your area to make sure you are prepared for today's retirement. For more information and to sign up for one of these events, call 888-294-9248 or visit chadslagleshow.com.
Remember, folks, success is waking up in the morning, whoever you are, wherever you are, no matter how old or young you are, and bounding out of bed because there's something out there that you love to do, that you believe in, that you're good at, and you can hardly wait to get at it again today. At Slagle Financial, realize that this is bigger than our team. It's about educating you, the public, and our wonderful clients, and empowering you to make better decisions with your hard-earned dollars. For my colleague Chad Tobin, my co-host Wendy Erickson, this is the coach, Chad Slagle. Thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to visiting with each and every one of you next week.